So, Rohit, what does the outcome of the midterm election really mean for the fintech industry?
So right now in this heated political environment in the country, the divided mandate in the midterm elections is the best bet for the fintech industry. Trump's policies have benefited small businesses, they have benefited the fintech industry because of the tax cuts as well as more deregulation and also a higher economic growth. So the key is that which part of the regulation are the Democrats going to focus on. If they're going to focus on something like a banking charter for fintech firms or having a better regulatory sandbox for fintech firms, that's great regulation. But if they're going to focus on regulation that every state should try to regulate fintech firms, then that's a bad news for fintechs.
What's the number one thing that political leaders could do to bolster the fintech industry at this point in time?
I would say the one thing that US is still lacking is a clarity in the regulatory space. Plus, there's a lot of friction between the federal initiatives and the states. The only way we'll be able to achieve is I would say, some sort of an understanding between federal and the state governments, which right now looks very difficult to happen. But that's the way forward. So the top three things that the regulatory sandbox should have: one is transparency of where the regulation is going, whether fintech players can apply to become banks. That's an important one. The second piece is, I would say more streamlined legal immigration into the country. That's important to attract talent out there because fintech companies need a lot of talent, smart people or to work for them. And then the third thing is, this whole streamlining of the state and the federal regulatory regime. That's very important because if that can happen and there could be a single regulatory mechanism for fintechs, it will ease their lives a lot.
From the fintech leaders' point of view, how should Republicans and Democrats work together to reach that goal?
I think the best way for the Democrats and the Republicans to work together is that while fintechs can help the underserved communities, it can help innovation, it can help new job creation. Now, all these are things which both Democrats and Republicans support. So there's a lot of overlap between their mutual interests, in promoting fintechs out there. And by creating the right regulatory regime, we're not talking about total deregulation, but we are talking about the right regulatory regime. That is something that both Republicans and Democrats should support, in my view. And that's also something that they should encourage more of the regulators to do that, and also encourage the fintechs to have their input into that, so that it creates the right environment for fintechs to innovate, prosper. That will clearly means that consumers will get better financial services. That means there will be more competition for incumbents, and that also means that it will be lower cost. So my take is that the midterms have been a surprise, but at the same point of time, there is a silver lining. That means that fintechs can move forward with what we have. Obviously, I am a little doubtful about what will happen in next 2 years from a regulatory aspect. But even if nothing more happens, it's still a good outcome because there's a lot of positive factors for fintechs to grow and prosper.